Good morning all of you. Today I am going to discuss about respiration, that is a topic of intermediate second year botany physiology. Okay. So what is respiration? Respiration means in your previous classes you know the definition of respiration. Simply we can say that inhalation of oxygen and exhalation of CO2 is called as respiration. But as per intermediate you are upgraded. So that means the definition of respiration is changed. How it is changed I will explain you. So when you are doing something like some work, that means when you are walking, when you are speaking, when you are sleeping, when you are doing something, when you are reading or when you are exercising, you need what? You need energy. So simply I will ask you where this energy is coming from. You can say simply it is from food, right? So when we are eating food, we are getting energy. Is after eating food only you are doing something? That means you want to perform a function, that means whenever you want to do for some work, you are immediately eating food? No. Whenever you need, energy is stored in the body and that will be used when we are doing work, not at the time of eating, right? So, okay. So, is there any relationship between definition of respiration and conversion of food material into energy? Yes, there is a relationship between the breakdown of food material into energy and the definition of respiration. Usually when inhalation takes place, the oxygen is entered into the body. That oxygen is combining with the food material. That means that is nothing but oxidation of food material takes place. Oxidation of food material leads to the breakdown of breakdown of the food and converting it into carbon dioxide and water and energy. That is the definition of respiration. Respiration definition means oxidation of food material, breaking down the food material and converting it into chemical energy. That is called what? Respiration. Okay. So usually plants prepare food material by the process of photosynthesis. Not only plants, some primitive bacteria, some cyanobacteria also can perform photosynthesis. So apart from the plants, animals, all animals depends on plants for food material. After eating food material, that food material is converted into energy in the cell. So this is called as cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. That means here the respiration takes place in the cell level. That's why it is called as cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. If you see plants need energy for absorption of water materials and minerals, and next transportation of food materials or transportation of energy, that means chemical compounds from one region to another region, or formation of formation of other parts like flowers, fruits and branches. It need what? It need energy or not? So for that means plants prepare food material. That food material is immediately entered into the respiration and breaking down, and it is converting it into energy. Okay, right. So what are the compounds involved in respiration? If you take an example like us, we are eating not only carbohydrate, that means not only starch, that means starch grains. We are eating some proteins, we are eating some fats, some organic acids, like that. So that means the compound may be whatever it may be is undergoing respiration. It is called as respiratory substrate. Respiratory substrate. Respiratory substrate. Okay. The respiratory substrate may be a carbohydrate or may be a protein or may be a fat or may be a organic acid. Okay. So this is the respiratory substrate. Now if you think like that, whenever the body need, that means a plant or animal need energy to do work, then it is utilized. Not all the time, isn't it? That means it is stored in some form. It is stored in some form. That form is nothing but ATP. That is called what? ATP. Adenosine triphosphate. Usually breaking of food material takes place by the oxidation of food. Oxidation of food breaking down into carbon dioxide and water and releases energy. That released energy is not spread at a time in the body. It is converting into some compound like ATP. That energy will be stored in the form of ATP. This is called as energy currency of the cell. Energy currency of the cell. Whenever the plant or animal need, this energy is utilized in the form of ATP. Like it is nothing but a currency. Whenever we need some thing to buy, we use some currency to buy, right? So like that, in the body of an organism, usually whenever the energy is required, that energy is stored in the form of ATP. This much ATP is utilized, that much of ATP is utilized, like that. That means the energy will be in the form of a currency that is called as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is called as energy currency of the cell. Okay, right. So is plants do respiration? That means is plants breathe? Yes, definitely plants also shows breathing. We know that actually when I'm very young, I used to think like that only photosynthesis takes place in plants, not the respiration. No, actually in plants, apart from photosynthesis, that means release of oxygen and utilization of carbon dioxide during the photosynthesis, they are also performing respiration, that means using of oxygen and releasing of carbon dioxide. That means it is not exactly, if you see, if you are eating some food, it is not a direct step to conversion of food material into energy, isn't it? It is a series of steps that takes place, and there is an involvement of many enzymes that are responsible for the breaking down of food material into some compounds, after ultimately it gives the energy. So there is a several step processes takes place, okay, right. So is if you think about some organisms which are primitive, that means when anaerobic conditions are there, that means there is no oxygen in the earth, that time also some organisms are lived in ancient times. That means at the time of earth formation, there is no oxygen on earth. Some organisms are lived on that time also. That means in anaerobic conditions also some organisms are there. What about these anaerobic organisms? What is the fate of the food material in the anaerobes? That means there is a difference between the aerobic and anaerobic organisms, where there is an oxygen is available and oxygen is not available. So by this, this respiration is divided into different steps. First step is called as glycolysis, and next is called as Krebs cycle. Next is electron transport. Okay, this is concerned about aerobic respiration, not for the anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is the area where the oxygen is available, air is available. Okay, and in anaerobic condition the respiration is somewhat different. We'll discuss it about stepwise process of glycolysis, Krebs cycle and electron transport. Okay. First we'll discuss about aerobic respiration. First step, that is nothing but glycolysis. Usually after photosynthesis starch is formed, right? Starch is converted into sucrose. Next this sucrose is converted into glucose and fructose. These are now entering into the first step, that is glycolysis. Usually this glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm of the cell. This is the cell, and this is cytoplasm. So in the cytoplasm glycolysis takes place. Takes place in the cytoplasm. That means if you take a prokaryotic organism, in prokaryotic organism there is no nucleus, right? So in the cytoplasm only plasm, that means protoplasm is there. There is no nuclear membrane around it, around some DNA. Okay, naked DNA will be there. Okay, leave it. This in the cytoplasm, there the glycolysis takes place. That means it is a common step for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Okay, so where it is occur? It is occur in cytoplasm of the cell. Not concerned about eukaryotic or prokaryotic organisms. It is takes place in cytoplasm. Okay, so we'll discuss about glycolysis in a stepwise manner. This is glycolysis. Glycolysis, glyco means glucose. Lysis means breakdown. Glucose is broken into some compound, that is what is the ultimate compound? Pyruvic acid. So this is called as glycolysis. This glycolysis is studied by three different scientists, Embden, Meyerhoff, Perens. Embden, Meyerhoff, Perens. So that's why it is also called as EMP pathway. EMP pathway. Where this EMP pathway takes place? It takes place in cytoplasm of the cell. Not concerned about eukaryotic and prokaryotic. That means it is placed in aerobic as well as in anaerobic organisms. Okay. Now we will discuss about glycolysis. What are the steps involved in glycolysis? We will detailedly discuss. Glucose, first compound which is entering into the glycolysis, is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. That means phosphate is added. So ATP is converted into ADP and PI, and in the presence of an enzyme called as hexokinase. Why it is called as hexo means here hexo indicates 6 carbon compound. This is glucose is a 6 carbon compound, that's why it is called as hexo. Kinase means here the ATP is synthesized, ATP is utilized, that's why an enzyme name is kinase. Whenever there is a ATP utilization, the enzymes always be kinase. Okay, and here phosphate is added, so the reaction is called as phosphorylation. Okay, so this is the first step of glycolysis. Next, this glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate. Usually glucose is not it's an aldehyde sugar, fructose is a keto sugar. So keto sugar is mainly responsible for the breaking down. Okay, so that's why glucose is converted into fructose. Fructose 6-phosphate in the presence of an enzyme called as hexose phosphate isomerase. Glucose and fructose are isomers which are having same molecular formula but structurally different. Okay, right. So glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate in the presence of an enzyme called as hexose phosphate isomerase. And this reaction is called as isomerization. And next, now this fructose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Already at 6th position phosphate is there. One more phosphate is added at 1st position. So it is called as fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This is here ATP is utilized in the presence of an enzyme called as, whenever there is a phosphate, this enzyme is called as kinase, and usually you can simply add the name of the substrate. Fructose phosphate, phosphofructokinase, and this is the reaction phosphorylation. So second phosphorylation. Okay. Next, in the presence of an enzyme called as aldolase, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is splitted into a 3 compound called as glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. These two are also isomers, and this 6 compound is splitted into 3 molecules. One is called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, another one is called as dihydroxyacetone phosphate in the presence of an enzyme called as aldolase, and this reaction is called as cleavage. Okay, now the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphates are there. This dihydroxyacetone phosphate is again converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate in presence of an enzyme called as triose phosphate isomerase. These two are also isomers. So conversion of DHAP into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate takes place. Already one glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is there. From DHAP one more glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is formed, so that 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate are formed here. 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate molecules are formed. So this reaction is called as isomerization. Now this, after that oxidation takes place. Here now glyceraldehyde is converted into 1,3-bis PGA, and here NAD+ is converted into NADH+. It is also an energy currency, right? Actually, we know that in photosynthesis, NADH is formed in this reaction. In this reaction, the enzyme is glycerolate 3-phosphate dehydrogenase is used, catalyzed the reaction, and the reaction is called as oxidation. Here, one inorganic phosphate, not in the form of ATP, is entered. One inorganic phosphate is entered into here and converting the compound into 1,3-bis PGA. 1,3-bis PGA means 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid. 1,3-bis phosphoglyceric acid. How many molecules? 2 molecules of 1,3-bis PGA is formed. Okay, now this 1,3-bis PGA is converted into 3 PGA. 1,3-bis PGA is converted into 3 PGA. That means losing of 1 PI takes place, right? That PI is accepted by ADP and converting it into ATP in the presence of an enzyme called as phosphoglycerokinase, and here phosphate is removed. That's why it is called as dephosphorylation. And next, now this 3 PGA is formed. 3 PGA is there. Now this 3 PGA is get converted into 2 PGA. That means intermolecular shift takes place. Intramolecular shift. Here 3 carbon compound it is. Here it is 3rd place, phosphate is there. Now this phosphate is shifted to 2nd place. This is called as 2 PGA. 2 PGA. Phosphoglyceromutase. The enzyme is called phosphoglyceromutase and this is reaction is called as intramolecular shift. Now this 2 PGA, how many molecules? 2 molecules of 2 PGA is converted into PEP. PEP means phosphoenol pyruvate and loses water molecule. Loses what? Water molecule in the presence of an enzyme called as enolase and the reaction is called as dehydration. Dehydration, that means water molecule is removed and converted into acid is converted into pyruvate. Phosphoenol pyruvic acid. Pyruvate is formed. Okay. Now this PEP is having what? Phospho, right? So this PEP is converted into pyruvic acid by losing 1 PI. That PI is accepted by ADP and converting it into ATP. Here the enzyme is phosphoglycerokinase and here also dephosphorylation takes place. That means removal of phosphate that is accepted by the ADP and converting it into ATP. So dephosphorylation takes place. Okay. So here 2 molecules of ATP is formed, right? Here utilized 2 molecules of ATP are utilized. Phosphorylation is. Okay. Here 2 molecules of ATP are formed. 2 molecules of ATP are formed. Why I am writing 2 means here 2 compounds. How many compounds it is? 2 compounds are there. That means 2 molecules of 1,3-bis PGA losing 2 PI. That means 2 ATP are generated here at 7th step and at the 10th step one more 2 molecules of ATP are generated. Totally 4 molecules. 4 molecules of ATP are generated. Out of 4, 2 are minus -2. So what is the net gain? 2 ATP and 2 NADH plus. 2 ATP and 2 NADH plus are generated. Okay. So what is the ultimate product? 2 ATP, 2 NADH plus. Okay. Right. So here actually if you take photosynthesis, where the ATP are generated, last step in the electron transport, that means by specialized cellular mechanism, that means cell membrane bound organelles are there, they are involved in ATP synthesis, that is called as what? Photophosphorylation, right? Photophosphorylation. Here directly the substrate is converted into one more substrate and releasing ATP, right? So this is called as substrate level phosphorylation. Substrate level phosphorylation. You know photophosphorylation. Photophosphorylation means in presence of light ATP synthesis takes place, that is called as photophosphorylation. Here substrate is directly forming the ATP, that's why it is called as substrate level substrate level phosphorylation. So this is about glycolysis. Understood? So here glucose is converted into 2 molecules of pyruvic acid and 2 ATP, 2 NADH H plus are generated in glycolysis. It is a common step for both aerobic and anaerobic reactions, and it is introduced by Embden-Meyerhof parents. So it is also called as EMP pathway. EMP pathway. It is common for both aerobic and anaerobic organism, and it takes place in cytoplasm, not concerned with any organelle. Okay. So this is about glycolysis. Hope you understand. Thank you. We'll meet again.